Today we are going to discuss the remaining two mental factors of the 5 controlling mental faculties. Pincha Indriya, 5 controlling mental faculties. They are verifiable faith and confidence, called saddha. And then energy and effort, which is viriya, and mindfulness, in Pali is sati. And the fourth one is mental concentration, samadhi. And the last and the final one is wisdom or insight, which is piññā. So today we are going to talk about the last two, concentration or mental concentration, samadhi. Okay, this samadhi we need to know a little bit in a wider scope, because there are two types of samadhi. As there are two types of meditation, there are two types of samadhi. The first type of meditation is called concentration meditation or fixed meditation. Okay. And they have their own type of samadhi or mental concentration. And the second one is pure vipassana or insight meditation, and they have their own different type of samadhi. Okay, let's talk about the first one, concentration meditation. As we know, we are meditating, okay, number one, to harness the mind. And then, secondly, you bring up to the point of one-pointedness onto a single object. That is the procedure and the purpose or objective, to become one-pointed on a single object. And while you are practicing that, there's a whole various level or degrees of concentration take place. At first it is quite chaotic, and slowly it calms down, cools down. And then when you become quite good at it, you got to a state where your mind does not wander away anymore, does not jump around to objects or other things. And if other objects come in, you're simply aware and they are gone. Okay. In other words, they cannot rock your boat. And your minds become quite calm and quiet down. Okay. You're of course observing on the object. Let's use the object, your in-breath and out-breath. Okay, that's the object, in-breath, out-breath. You're aware of your in-breath, out-breath, and at the same time, whenever the outside objects come and touch, you're still aware, quite aware of it, but you do not link onto those outside objects. You cannot go out with those outside objects. You're simply aware, and then you're back to your own in-breath and out-breath. They come, they touch, they are gone. They come, they touch, they are gone. Just like you're standing, the breeze come and touch you and just gone. Just like that. All these little outside thoughts, outside objects can come and touch your domain of that concentration. But they touch and they're gone and you're aware of it. But they cannot seduce you, they cannot drag you, and you are totally in your object of meditation, which is in-breath and out-breath. But there's a full awareness of it. And when you reach to that level, that is called, you have attained the neighborhood concentration power or access concentration power. Just English name, English translation. And in Pali it's called Upachara Samadhi. Okay? So to get to that stage, don't think that it's easy. You have to climb up many levels. And at this stage, you are quite calm, you are quite quiet, you are quite concentrated. But still, you are quite aware of your environment, even though you cannot be seduced by the environment. That state, we call it Upachara Samadhi. Upachara, literally translated, is a veranda. A veranda in your house, that's a veranda is the Upachara. Okay? Samadhi is concentration. Okay, let's see what veranda is to try and understand. Veranda is the part which is directly adjacent to, okay, to your main house. You step in, you get into the house. You step out, you get to the veranda. So it is directly in very close contact, close proximity to the main building. That's a veranda. So that is the meaning of the veranda, or the function, or the location and situation of a veranda, Upachara Samadhi. And in here, you got to this Upachara Samadhi, or neighborhood concentration, or access concentration. So according to the example of the veranda, so this must be a veranda to the main house. The veranda to the main house. And in here, in this meditation, what is the main house? Main house is called one-pointedness. Okay, one-pointedness. Or it's called Appana Samadhi. Appana Samadhi. One-pointedness. But it's translated as absorption. Your mind is totally absorbed into the object of meditation. That is your main house. And when your mind is totally absorbed to your meditation object, at that moment, there might be all things from outside just bombarding and contacting you. But nothing could touch you, to the point of you are not even aware they are knocking on your door. You are totally into it. Nothing could really shake you. You are totally absorbed. In other words, they just bounce out, bounce out, bounce out. Let's say you are in a glass tube, and the breeze blowing, the breeze blow over the glass tube. You are not even aware it is windy or not windy, blowing or not blowing. That when you are absorbed into the object, you are with the object and nothing else. Nothing can intrude you, absorb you, as long as you are in that state of absorption. Okay? State of absorption, or Appana Samadhi. Okay? This Appana Samadhi is the main house. And the veranda is the Upachara Samadhi. Concentration at on the veranda, just before the main house. That's why in English they call it neighborhood. Okay? Your neighborhood is your adjacent to you. They also use the neighborhood concentration. They translate it. And some translate it as access concentration. You have a direct access to that absorption state. There's no intermediary in between. So that is called access concentration. So in this concentration meditation, the two major types of samadhi or mental concentration is two types. One is called access concentration and one is called absorption concentration, totally absorbed. And now you know how they differ and how they are related. And that's it. And once you got to absorption concentration, that is only one-pointedness, only on the single object. In other words, at that time, that is your universe. Beyond that, there's nothing exists. And around those period, there is no mental defilement can touch you. There's no lobha, there's no dosa, okay? No greed or no anger. And also moha. Moha is delusion. They are quite clear and clearly understand about what they are observing, or they are totally into it. Because that object is you and you are that object. That kind of knowing is there. It knows. So you can say quite a number of delusion or illusion or uncertainty is gone. But that knowing is not about the true nature of mind or matter. Okay? Does not know the true nature of mind and matter. So in that sense, that state still has moha, not knowing the true nature of mind and matter. But they thoroughly understand about this in-breath and out-breath because they are it and it is them. So mental defilement is far away in that state. But when you come out of that absorption, Pali what is called jhana, you go into the state of jhana and stay there, quiet, peaceful, happy, calm, tranquil, serene, nothing disturbs you, no mental defilements there except for not knowing the true nature of mind and matter. But when you come out of that absorption, then you are still back to this chaotic wall, and this wall of chaos can still rub on you and disturb you, and you can be disbalanced. But that's another story. But at least you know what this mental concentration means in the concentration meditation, samatha meditation. Now the second one, vipassana meditation or satipatthana vipassana meditation. In this meditation too, there is concentration, but it is quite different from the first one that we have discussed. Okay, first and foremost, it is quite clear. The method is you observe any object that comes. So if there's 20 different objects coming to you, you are engaging with 20 different objects. How can you be one-pointedly concentrating on one thing? You can't. You're jumping from one object to the other, or jumping from one object to the other. You cannot have that absorption or one-pointedness for a long period of time. So just from the nature of the practice, it is right from the onset is different. But in here, how do we practice? Okay, let's go back to our practical procedure. You're observing the rising movement of your abdomen. Okay. And it's starting to move upward or outward. That is the expanding, 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 expanding. If you want to say it in a complex set, the expansion of your stomach or tummy in general. That expansion is started when it starts expanding. When is it? When you breathe it in, the air is starting to fill. And as soon as the air starts to fill, there's the movement of your abdomen. And you know exactly that when it starts moving. And then incrementally it moves and moves and moves and moves and moves. And you know that every increment moves. And as it is moving, it becomes tense. Okay. First of all, a little bit of tension you can feel. And then you feel the pressure. And then you feel the fullness and a certain degree of stiffness. If you are observing this increment by increment, the incremental movement, very closely you will experience all the changes of the pressure that performs in that process. Tension, stiffness, pressure, fullness, all these things. And then, quite near the full, you can even feel discomfort. See? Another. And if you observe from the beginning right to the end, and if you are applying exactly as Buddha instructed us, ardently, you apply great effort in that focus. It must be really focused, laser focused, to know this movement, increment by increment by increment movement. And if you don't have that kind of ardent energy or ardent effort, you will not know. You simply know, oh rising, oh falling, oh rising, oh falling. But if you look at it that way, increment by increment, you need a great amount of effort and you know everything. And then finally, when it is full, it can't move anymore, it stops. So that is one observation you are doing for the beginners at the beginner's level. And to do that, what do? You have to apply enormous amount of effort, not just simply knowing. Simply knowing is not enough. Okay? You must know in depth, complete, thorough. That's why these words are used. Penetrative, closely. So just little this, the rising movement from the beginning to the end, you must know with that kind of a focus and every aspect of the changes. All that you are focusing is the movement, but if you really can focus the movement increment by increment, all other things come into play. Stiffness, pressure, tension, fullness, discomfort, sometimes even a slight pinching pain. How can you expect just a rising movement? How can you have a pain? But when you observe it, you see these things, you experience these things. And that's it. That's arising. And then the next object comes. The falling process. Falling, 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 falling. You observe with that kind of intensity and you will experience everything that associated with the falling movement. So, when there is observation and the rising movement, you observe, and at the end, that rising movement disappear, dissolve, stop. That rising process stop. And when that rising process stop, the observation also stop with it. The consciousness that knows the rising movement also disappear with it. And when the falling movement comes, that is the another consciousness that know the falling movement. And I'm showing you on a bigger picture. It can go a lot more detail than that, but at this moment, this will be sufficient. So there is a full blast of energy that goes in from the moment of the movement right to the end. And at that time, you know all these things. To know all these things, your mind has to be totally concentrated on each and every aspect that is happening. So there's an enormous amount of energy, which means enormous amount of mindfulness. And as a consequence, there's an enormous amount of concentration power. Samadhi is developed at that little moment. It is far, far powerful and explosive than ordinary concentration. Just for that moment, that kind of concentration is involved. And at the same time, when the object disappears, the mindfulness disappears, and concentration that you build up also disappears. That little one moment that you perfectly developed, that concentration is called Khanika Samadhi. Khanika means momentary. Okay? The concentration power that you build for that little moment, momentary concentration. That's it. It comes and it goes away. And you cannot be one-pointed because there's no more object. The next object is falling. The next object is maybe sitting. The next object is maybe touching, and so on. And then it might come back again for the rising, but another new rising, and there's another new awareness, a new mindfulness, and another new concentration. Goes like that. And that is called Khanika Samadhi. Now you know. It develops moment to moment to moment. Yes, for one moment or two moments, one rising or two rising, you can do that kind of a thing with great emphasis. But after about 2 or 3 or 4, in fact, at the beginning, you get even exhausted because you are applying the amount of energy that you had never applied before for moment to moment. You get even tired and you cannot maintain that level. When you cannot maintain the level, your concentration also is not as powerful. There might still be concentration, but not as powerful. But in this meditation, you have to maintain that level. You have to maintain that level. Every observation, you must apply great effort and energy. And every moment, you have to be mindful with precision. And only then that concentration power will become more or less continuous. Okay. One object comes, one concentration. 20 objects come, if there is no break, and if you can apply the same kind of intensity, then 20 concentration comes in, and so on. Let's say if you can maintain that for about 30 minutes, then if you can maintain that for about 30 minutes, what happens is that cumulative, the momentum of this momentary concentration become as powerful as Upachara Samadhi. Okay? access concentration as powerful as Upajjhara Samadhi. And that's what you need. So we need momentary concentration, moment to moment, fantastic, good, but you have to build the momentum of it. That's why in the instruction, one must practice with no gap and no break. Once you got a gap and a break, that concentration power cannot be cumulative. If that is not cumulative, it cannot be strong enough to be in the zone of a equivalent to access concentration. And if you don't have that kind of a power of concentration, you cannot see or experience the true nature of mind and matter. Of course, at the lower level, little things you can see, but not in a deeper way. That's why to have this observation practice with no breaks and no gap is extremely important. And if you can maintain for about 30 minutes, 40 minutes, there's no if or but. Even if you are a rookie, if you can maintain 30 minutes, you will experience the true nature of Dharma at the level where you are observing. That's why this method is very effective and the results are immediate, here and now. You don't need long term. So that is Khanika Samadhi, okay? Momentary concentration. That type of concentration is for the Satipatthana Vipassana. But one needs to develop these again and again with no break and no gap, so that their power is become equivalent to access concentration. If you remember access concentration, what are the qualities? They are aware of what is touching from the outside, but they are not seduced by it, they don't run away with it, and they are also peaceful. And their awareness is with alertness, wakenness. When you go into absorption, that alertness is gone, that wakefulness is gone. You just sink into it. That's why one needs to be in the access concentration level. And Vipassana never gets into that absorption level, because we must always maintain alertness and awakeness. And we are always in the equivalency of this access concentration power. And this is called Vipassana Samadhi. So there are two types of Samadhi. I think that will be plenty for you to know at this level. And the next one is wisdom. Okay. Wisdom, you already have heard little line what I just said a few minutes ago. When you have this kind of cumulative power of concentration, you see the true nature of mind and matter, because they are like a hand lens. It really can expand and can see the details of what it is. We always mention this example. A little ant, you look at it, you see it. But if you put a hand lens in, you look at it and you can really see the details, even the whiskers and even the hairs on the legs. Just like that, this concentration, samadhi, is like a hand lens. You are still observing the same rising and falling. You are still observing the pleasant feeling and unpleasant feeling. But when you have samadhi, you see in a way that you have never seen before, in explicit details. And seeing that way is called you are having insight into this mind and matter. That is seeing or having insight into the mind and matter. So that understanding is called insight or wisdom. In Pali, it's called pinya. But instead of unwavering, I'll make it more precise. What is this insight? Insight into the mind and insight into the matter. Again, these understanding, these insight, these wisdoms does not arise from your thought process, does not arise from reasoning and logic, or does not arise from trying to figure out. That's the first thing. When we say insight and wisdom, that is the first difference one must understand. Everything comes from direct experience, experiential understanding, not intellectual understanding. So in here, insight into the, let's say, matter. Matter is rupa. Okay, we have explained in detail at the earlier part. Okay, ultimate reality and apparent reality. So don't need to go too much in detail. What it is this body or matter or physical process or physical phenomenon is actually made up of 4 major elements. Everything has these 4 major elements. What are they? Earth, wind, fire, and water elements. I have explained in detail what they mean. Okay. Just to have a little slight touch. Earth means hardness and softness. Wind means movement, vibration. Okay. Fire means temperature, hot and cold. And water means cohesion and dispersion. Those things. All these 4 coexist. They don't exist separately. Coexist. And every materiality, every matter, however big or however small they are, these 4 qualities exist. And knowing that quality experientially, while you are observing, there's rising and falling and sitting and lifting and pushing, that is the insight. Okay? Those qualities we mentioned are called specific characteristics or specific qualities of each object. They have a specific. And this is one. One must experience the specific characteristics of the matter and specific characteristics of the mind. That's the first wave of understanding. And those understanding through experience are called insight. And then all that you do was you don't have to look for anything, you don't have to search for anything, you don't have to think for anything. All that you do was keep on observing, keep on observing, keep on observing, and you will experience these specific characteristics again and again and again, repeatedly, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of times. And when you have that kind of a repetition of direct experience, then at one time you're starting to understand, again experientially, everything arises and passes away, arises and passes away. It's impermanence. It's called anicca. And then everything is always under the oppression of this arising and passing away. It's being oppressed. by the arising and passing away, all mind and matter. As they are oppressed by it, what's it? Just one word, forget about everything. If someone is under oppression, what is it? That someone is suffering. So that nature of being oppressed by this arising and passing away or impermanence is a state of suffering. Arising and passing away happening all the time. And also suffering is happening all the time. But we are not aware of it. We thought that suffering as a fantastic, great good. That's how we see. But when you truly experience it, you begin to feel that oppression and you can feel that suffering. And then you're dealing with this mind and matter. And of course, you want to change this, you want to change that, you want to control this, you want to control that, you want to get everything you like close by, you want to kick out everything you don't like, push away. But at the same time, at this stage, at this moment, this mind and matter, you understand there is nothing you can manipulate, nothing you can control. It is out of your control, out of your power. And that nature of uncontrollability, that nature of always arising and passing away, what? The mind and matter, what you call self. So eventually, it is the self that is always dissolving. It is the self that is always under stress and suffering. It is the self that is always in the flow of uncontrollable flow of nature. Then suddenly you understand, wow, self is really a non-self. And that understanding, anicca, dukkha, anatta, impermanence, suffering, and non-self, those are called general or common characteristic. General or common characteristic. Samanya lakkhana. And that's it. Specific characteristics and general or common characteristics. You come to understand experientially without intellectual process. Is called wisdom or insight. And of course, you might say, so what? I'll give you a little glimpse on the so what. Once you experience like that, once it touches you like that, the way you look at the world completely changes. The attitude towards the world changes. The attitude towards all other beings changes. Changes in what way? You never deal with these other beings based on the self-interest. Whenever you are dealing with them, there is no more self-interest. It might benefit you as a part of the group, but you are not doing it for your personal benefit or personal interest. That's what it is. That is the result of the pinya, understanding, wisdom. All they say, you understand mind and matter, so what? So what is everything about you changes because your view, samadhi, the right view. Once you have that right view, your actions, your behaviors, your manners, your thoughts, everything changes. In a way that you will never calculated with self. So may all of you be able to practice Satipatthana Vipassana meditation and be able to develop these 5 controlling mental faculties to the perfect balance, balancing faith with wisdom, balancing effort against concentration, and never escaping, never missing correct mindfulness all the time. And may you be able to contribute for the benefit of the humanity as soon as possible. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Buddham pujami. Dhammam pujami. Sangham pujami.